What's up, y'all? Hope everybody out there is having an awesome day. I got some news here for you. I would call it breaking news, but it came out last night, so I feel like it's a little bit dishonest to call this breaking news. But before I get to that, let me just say, tune into the show later today. Got a bunch of awesome stuff to cover. Also, I'll be on the Vanguard today at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Come hang out with us over there as well. We'll be live, of course. But last night, so this came out. A report from Axios and Barak Ravid, okay? Now, you should keep in mind, Barak Ravid is almost certainly an actual Israeli agent. Okay, I'm saying that because of his history. If you don't believe me, go look it up. This guy is sus as hell. Okay, but he comes out and he says that Trump told Netanyahu on a phone call on Monday, quote, "You're fucking crazy. You'd be in prison if it weren't for me. I'm saving your ass. Everybody hates you now. Everybody hates Israel because of this." This is what Barak Ravid is saying that Trump said to Netanyahu on a phone call. Now, allow me to just say right up front here, if you believe this, I have a bridge to sell you. If you believe this, you are one of the most naive rubes to ever walk this planet. There is a 0% chance that this actually happened, okay? And when I say zero, I mean zero. For those of you who don't remember, there's a long track record during the Biden years of... You would have the same thing. You'd have Barak Ravid of Axios would say, "Oh, Joe Biden is getting really pissed off at Netanyahu. There's about to be a blow up. There's about to be a breakup. He's really mad at him." In fact, I have one of the other headlines here from the Times of Israel. Biden said to call Netanyahu a fucking liar after Israeli troops entered Rafah. Because, of course, they were saying they weren't going to do that, and then they did that. Here's the thing, guys. You will know this is real. You will know there's actually an issue between the U.S. president and the Israeli prime minister, if and when we actually cut off money and weapons, okay? That's when you'll know, oh, wait a second, this is real. Like, there's an actual issue here. But until that point, it's all fake. It's all kayfabe. It's all nonsense. And in fact, we've seen this before because right before the Israeli-American strikes in the summer of 2025, the media also manufactured similar stories about Trump and Netanyahu falling out. And they use that as like a diversion tactic to then start bombing again and start doing war again. So it's basically messaging aimed at an American audience that's frustrated with Israeli influence in Washington. It's like they're aware that the public sees Trump and sees our government as basically cucked to Israel and bought by the Israel lobby and blackmailed by Epstein and Mossad. And so in order to like create a perception change, like, oh no, us, bro? We're not beholden to Israel. Oh, we're not beholden to the Israel lobby and the military-industrial complex and doing the bidding of all these different people. No, we're our own person. And to prove that, here's an obviously bullshit story about Trump saying to Netanyahu, "You're fucking crazy. You'd be in prison if it weren't for me. I'm saving your ass. Everybody hates you now. Everybody hates Israel because of this." By the way, at the same time, Trump came out yesterday and he said, "I spoke to Hezbollah and I spoke to Netanyahu, and they said that they're not going to fight anymore. Nobody's going to shoot at anybody. Nobody's going to do anything. That's what they told me." And then literally like immediately after that, there's another 7 stories about Israel continuing to march deeper and deeper into Lebanon, continuing to attack Beirut, continuing to tell 700,000 people to evacuate, continuing to steal more and more territory. They took a castle by the Litani River the other day as well. First time they've held that since the year 2000. They're basically trying to take over all of Lebanon in the same way they took over all of Gaza and destroyed Gaza. They're doing another genocide right in front of our eyes. And this is basically optics management of Trump trying to distance himself from what he knows Netanyahu is doing and going to continue to do, okay? So, again, don't fall for this shit. Complete nonsense, complete bullshit. But then again, I feel like I don't even need to tell you guys these things at this point because you probably already know it. Because how many times have we been through it when it comes to Iran, for example, where they say, like, we're about to make a deal, we're on the brink of a deal, and then the next day it's like, we bombed them and we're not even close to a deal, and I don't even want a deal. Who wants a deal? It goes back, forth, back, forth, back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. So we absolutely live in hell, and Occam's razor is whatever the worst possible thing to continue to happen is the thing that will almost certainly continue to happen. That's unfortunately the reality of the world we're living in. So there you have it. Like I said, check out the show later today, and also come hang out with us on the Vanguard at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be live, and I'll see you guys there. Peace. All right, welcome to the show, y'all. Hope you guys are having a great day out there. Prepare yourself, man, because Trump is panicking as MAGA is experiencing a catastrophic collapse in the midterm polls. Wait until you see some of these specifics. It is absolutely baffling how they squandered a massive win about a year and a half ago. I mean, it's just incredible stuff. So we'll talk about that. We also have Trump flat out murdering 200 civilians in fatal terror strikes on boats in the Caribbean and the Pacific. That death toll, ladies and gentlemen, has been going up and up and up, and nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about the fact that the president is doing extrajudicial murder on a weekly basis. We'll also get to the architect of Project 2025 comes out and admits the quiet part out loud and shocks everybody, flat out thanking Trump for implementing a whole bunch of the Project 2025 policies. We'll dive into that. And later on, one of the most bizarre interviews I've ever seen in my life, we have a MAGA candidate openly admitting to murder in a train wreck of an interview. You do not want to miss this. If you haven't seen this yet, this is one of the most bizarre, strange things I think I've ever seen in my life. So we have that as well. You guys know the deal, man. Everybody do me a big favor. Please subscribe to the channel. That helps out big time and costs you absolutely nothing. You can also click that bell icon so you get a notification every time a video drops. Also, subscribe to Corn's World, the YouTube channel, because we do live Kyle and Corn episodes over there every Monday night. You guys can come hang out with us and shoot the shit. We also have Patreon, of course. Support the show on Patreon. As you all know, this is real independent media. I've never talked to an advertiser. I've never done an ad read. I never will. I'm very proud of that fact. You guys have made that possible by giving $2 a month and $5 a month and $7 a month. And you guys also tip on YouTube. Thank you very much for that as well. Also, sign up for Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack. And with that being said, let's go ahead and jump in. So we got some new numbers here from Harry Enton. This stuff is absolutely catastrophic for MAGA, but CNN is confirming a historic enthusiasm gap right now. So Harry Enton's going to break it down here for us. But if these numbers hold, then we're looking at genuinely a too big to rig type scenario for the Democrats. Look at this.
The other key factor, right, is it's one thing to have a lead, but if you're not going to show up and vote, what difference does it make? And this tells the story. Absolutely certain to vote in November. Democrats, 75% of them, when you include the leaners, say that they're absolutely certain to turn out and vote in this midterm election. Republicans, it's just 67%. Now, this is an 8-point advantage, which is very, very important, because essentially what that means is you can take that House lead that Democrats have, and if the likely voters, the actual voters, match this absolutely certain to vote in November, that means that lead would be even larger, I feel like I'm in the movie Airplane. Larger. Anyway, I'm not sure if that's exactly quite right, but it's how I remember it in my head. But this 8-point lead is historic. It's historic. This is why I keep saying that Democrats are in a historic position heading into the midterm election.
That's incredible. All right, we're not done yet, though, because CNN confirms Democrats hold a 7-point lead on the national House ballot, more than double their 2018 margin, which still led to a blue wave in 2018. We had half the lead that we had in 2018, and no, we have double the lead that we had in 2018. And 2018 was also a massive blue wave. Here we go. Listen.
Well, at this point in midterm cycles, Democrats right now have a 7-point advantage, and that is, again, the strongest that they have had. You got to go all the way back to 2006 when Democrats held an 11-point lead. But this 7 points, look at this. It's more than double what Democrats had in 2018 when, of course, they were able to take back the U.S. House, gaining about 40 seats, maybe 41, depending on.
We had half the lead in 2018, and we picked up 40 seats. This is a big deal.
How you measure it. But the bottom line is you don't have to worry yourself with the details. That's my concern. But Democrats have a clear advantage on that. Now, I know what you're saying. Hey, Republicans have been doing all this redistricting, right? Especially in the South as of recent. Well, this 7-point lead, well, it overcomes, even with the redistricting, it overcomes that barrier. Because take a look at Democrats in the national House vote margin. Right now, their lead, 7 points. What is needed in order to take back the U.S. House with redistricting? You need only a 3-point advantage.
So in other words, the Republicans have given themselves a 3 percentage point buffer. And even if you factor that in, we still win by 4, which again, effectively would make it too big to rig. So the only way they could actually hold on to power would be to literally refuse to seat the Democratic Congress people, stuff like that, which I don't put by them, by the way. I don't put anything by these fascist psychopaths. But this is absolutely devastating stuff here for MAGA. All right. We got more. CNN data confirms a catastrophic collapse for the GOP. Democrats now hold a 13-point lead on who voters trust to handle the country's top issues. 13-point lead. 13. Here we go.
Now, when you look at this party ID lead, this is fueled in part by the simplest of questions. What's the most important problem the country is facing in your mind, and who do you trust to solve it? Well, right now, Democrats, hello, it's that same 13 points. It's that same 13-point lead that Democrats have over Republicans on which party they trust more to handle the top issue. And that, look at this. This really tells the story. Look at 2022. Republicans were trusted more by 11 points. More by 11 points. This is the inverse of that. This lead, this 13-point lead, look at, this green line. This is very similar to what we saw all the way back in 2006, which I said is exactly what Democrats want to happen, right? Take back not just the House, but take back the United States Senate as well. These figures, very similar, and this very much unlike anything else on your screen.
That's also a big deal. We also have Harry Enton confirms a massive political shift. He reveals Democrats now hold a staggering 13-point lead in party identification over Republicans. The largest advantage in 20 years. 20 years. Also, as you can see on the screen here, worst ever consumer sentiment. It's down 38 points since just January of 2025. Oh my days. So that is the beginning of Trump's term. Since the beginning of Trump's term, consumer confidence has plummeted 38 points. Watch this.
Full of questions. That is, you identify as a Democrat, Republican, Independent, etc. And when we allocate those independents, look at this, to the Democrats, Republicans. Democrats right now have a 13-point lead.
Bro, that is even bigger than the 2006 election, and that election was a backlash to George W. Bush, was a backlash to the illegal war in Iraq, and now we've even surpassed that in terms of Democratic Party identification. We're now at the point where it's like, shit, we're probably above and beyond like the 2008 Democrat numbers, which obviously that was a huge deal because that was when Barack Obama first hit the scene as a national figure, and there was a massive influx in support to the Democratic Party. A lot of people were registering as Democrats at the time. We might even be eclipsing that right now. They don't have 2008 on the screen because it's only about the midterms here, but my guess is we've even eclipsed that.
A 13-point lead on Republicans on this most basic of measure. And when we look back at prior midterm cycles, at this point, this 13-point lead is bigger than any in at least 20 years. It even beats 2006 when Democrats easily took back the U.S. House of Representatives and gained 6 Senate seats, which if it happened this year, Democrats would be, yeah, that is perfect for us. We would take back the Senate as well.
Now, as you guys know, we've talked about this quite a bit, but I've seen polls of MAGA, Trump's favorability, as low as 32% overall. His favorability, 32%. That's abysmal. That's like, where he was post-January 6th with the insurrection and the attempt to steal the election. Okay? That's kind of insurmountable. Not only that, when you go to specific issues, when you ask about inflation, you ask about the economy, we're now seeing numbers like 24%, 28%, just things that, you haven't seen from other presidents. This just hasn't been a thing. I mean, maybe you could go back to George W. Bush and Dick Cheney when the Great Recession happened, like in the throes of that, it's possible. But 22%, 28%, 24% when asked, how do you feel about the economy? How do you feel about inflation? Again, we're talking about insurmountable type shit here, okay? But I saved the best for last because this truly, truly is incredible, ladies and gentlemen. This is wild right here. Look at this. Pedro Gonzalez says, Trump's approval with 18 to 29s is 12%. 12%. He continues, MAGA is truly a hospice movement, and every millennial and Gen X podcaster and personality is really just dancing for Fox News boomers to shower them with their loose change. You hear that, Tim Pool? You hear that, Benny Johnson? You hear that, every single right-wing chud cuck podcaster out there? Michael Knowles, the rest of them. You literally are talking to a nursing home, okay? That's who you're talking to, a nursing home. Every single young person in this country is going, what the fuck? What the fuck is happening here? And you want to know why they feel this way? It's not exactly rocket science. They can't afford groceries. They can't afford to put gas in their car. They've given up on the idea of the American dream and eventually owning a home, right? They feel like all their jobs are under threat because AI is going to come and take them. They feel like their government isn't even close to representing them and is only screwing them over day after day and representing the Epstein class and billionaires and corporations. That's what they feel like, and they're right. They look at a president who said no new wars, then started multiple new wars, and they're like, well, what the fuck is this? 12% approval rating. I don't know if I've ever seen something that low. You're now approaching, this is like when they did that poll, I want to say it was in like 2010 or something like that, maybe 2014, and they compared like, hey, how popular is Congress? It turns out a root canal was more popular than Congress. Cockroaches were more popular than Congress. The most absurd things. Because, like, you know, Congress overall, I have seen polls like 9% approval rating for it. Because everybody knows you're always voting for the lesser evil. The whole fucking body is corrupt. Nobody's representing you. And then here you look at this and you go, it's all catching up to them, bro. It's all catching up. MAGA has been exposed. MAGA is a con. MAGA is a scam. All Trump has ever known is conning and scamming. This is a family that stole from a children's cancer charity. Quite literally, they did that. Trump is a guy who was found liable for fraud when it comes to tax fraud, insurance fraud, business fraud. This is a guy who's charged with 91 crimes, 34-time convicted felon, a guy who every other day there's a new story that comes out about the creativity, the amazing creativity when it comes to scamming people, right? The way he can figure out just weaseling other people out of their shit is kind of astonishing. Whether it's the meme coin, the shit coin that he put out there. Melania also put a shit coin out there. The $640 million or thereabouts that Trump's kids got from the U.S. government for that Vulcan Earth Mineral Company that they backed, the Kazakh mining company that they backed, where they're getting rich off that as well. Jared Kushner getting $2 billion from Saudi Arabia. Trump, his net worth increasing billions since being back in the White House. The pay-to-play, pardon scheme where he gets $1 million at Mar-a-Lago from somebody, then he pardons whoever the fuck that person wants. Like, all this shit is finally fucking catching up, bro. It's all catching up. So just incredible, incredible numbers here. I don't know how a movement recovers from this. In fact, I really don't think a movement can recover from this. And honestly, wouldn't even matter. Even if Trump were to end the Iran war today, gas prices were to plummet to under $3 a gallon. If he were to, fess up to the corruption and give the money back, like, no, there's just no scenario in which people will forgive what they're seeing because of how much it's now affecting them personally and how much everything has been exposed as a lie. And that's what MAGA is. It's a total lie. So enjoy your 12% approval rating. My guess is by the end of this year, that'll drop to single digits.
Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
Now, I must say, I am slowly but surely losing my goddamn mind for the simple reason that the media sucks. Like, they're horrible at their job. I feel like the Democrats suck at messaging. They suck at their job. And oftentimes, since my job is to follow the news and share the news with you guys, I'll see some shit and I'm like, wait a second, this can't be right. I haven't heard anybody talk about this. I haven't heard anybody report on this. I haven't heard this blow up on social media. And like I said, I'm losing my mind because things that should be a big deal are no longer treated as a big deal. In fact, they're barely mentioned if they're mentioned at all. I mean, one great example of this is the genocide in Gaza. There was more bombing that just happened yesterday. Nobody talked about it. Lebanon. What Israel is doing in Lebanon. They're trying to do to Lebanon what they did to Gaza. They're in the midst of doing that right now. They're carpet bombing a bunch of apartment buildings packed full of civilians. 700,000 people are trying to evacuate to save their lives. Hospitals have been attacked. A fucking resort was attacked. All that's going on, barely fucking mentioned. Barely mentioned. It was only mentioned in the context of Iran saying to the U.S., we are not going to negotiate with you at all until Israel stops, right? So shit like this happens all the time. No mention. Well, here's another great example. Southcom said the following. On May 29th, at the direction of Southcom, Commander General Francis L. Donovan, Joint Task Force Southern Spear conducted a lethal kinetic strike on a vessel operated by designated terrorist organizations. Intelligence confirmed the vessel was transiting along known narco trafficking. So here's a video. Let's take a look at this, okay? Here's a video. Boom. The United States just vaporized a boat in the Caribbean. They just vaporized a boat in the Caribbean. There was no trial. There was no due process. There was no evidence presented. There was no nothing. It was, there's a boat, let's blow it up. So as Michael Gallant says, Hegseth has now murdered over 200 people in the Caribbean and Pacific without public evidence or trial. Yes, this is extrajudicial murder. This is what's known as a terrorist attack. If anybody else did it, we'd be very clear-eyed about that. We would be, not mincing any words when it comes to describing it. Okay? That's what's happening. So now they've killed over 200 people. Last I checked, it was about 180 or 183 people who were killed while on boats. Now it's over 200 people. They're still murdering people on the high seas for no fucking reason. By the way, let's be clear. They say these are narco traffickers. Number one, there's no evidence of that. Number two, even if they were narco traffickers, you know what you do? You board the boat, you seize what they got on there, you arrest them, and they stand trial. That's how you handle that. That's how a civilized country handles that. A country that believes in a constitution, that believes in due process, that believes in fucking Magna Carta. That's what they would do. No, they're just blowing them up. And by the way, most of these people they've murdered, let's be clear, are not even drug traffickers. They're a bunch of fishermen. How do I know that? We've had the family members of said fishermen come out from other countries and go, that was my brother, and he wasn't a criminal. He was just working. That's what he does. It's happened time and time and time again. There's even lawsuits over that fact. And the media, again, is barely fucking talking about this, if they talk about it at all. We have people from Venezuela who were murdered, from Trinidad and Tobago who were murdered. And again, it's not treated seriously. So now, let me show you this. Trump gets devastating news after fatal boat strike. Shout out to Midas Touch, because they're one of the few outlets that actually is covering this. Here we go.
Southern Command is releasing video showing a strike on an alleged drug boat in the Eastern Pacific, killing 3 people last night. The vessel was described as being operated by designated terrorist organizations. The 3 suspected narco-terrorists who were on board were all killed. No U.S. military forces were harmed, according to Southcom. So on Wednesday, NBC News reported that Southcom struck 2 other alleged drug boats in the Eastern Pacific.
The drugs coming in by sea are down 94%.
It was reported yesterday that the Trump administration targeted yet another alleged drug boat in the Pacific, killing 3 men in the 4th attack this week, putting the death toll at 205. U.S. Southern Command announced at the strike with its usual language that the vessel was, quote, engaged in narco-trafficking operations and operated by a designated terrorist organization, before then providing no further evidence for the allegation. It's the latest in a months-long campaign against these alleged drug boats traversing the Caribbean Sea and Eastern Pacific. And where we pick up this video is with the latter part of the government's oversight, right? That any news source with a platform should call into question is this administration's so-called war on drug boats has reached a very uncomfortable point, because the administration is still blowing up boats.
For everybody listening to this audio podcast style, which, by the way, if you prefer, all you out there, you can listen to the show audio podcast style. Just go to whatever platform you like and watch, or listen. This is from New York Times. Blowing up boats hasn't slowed cocaine traffic to U.S., experts say. Despite the rising body count off the South American coast, researchers say cocaine is as easy to get in many parts of the United States as it was before the strikes began. You hear that, Joe Rogan? Do you guys remember when Joe Rogan went on his show and actually said that, the drug deaths have plummeted because Trump is murdering people on the ocean? Remember that? Then meanwhile, a bunch of people ran out there to point out, hey, Joe, you idiot. The numbers started going down under Biden, not under Trump. And it was because of a Biden policy to give naloxone out to first responders so that they can reverse overdoses. That's what that had to do with. It had nothing to do with Trump whatsoever. And now we know, no, there's not fucking overdose deaths. Or excuse me, there's no slowdown in the cocaine trafficking. That's still happening like it was before, because they're not blowing up actual traffickers. They're blowing up random people. This is what you need to understand, guys. These are a bunch of idiots, they're a bunch of incompetents, and they're a bunch of terrorists in our government. Like, do you think Pete Kegsbreath has the IQ to even manage a fucking Denny's? No, of course not. And he's supposed to be, controlling our military? Are you mental? Are you out of your minds? The Secretary of Defense? Really? What a sick joke.
Killing people, calling them narco-terrorists, and releasing dramatic videos claiming they are making America safer, but they're providing no evidence that you would at least expect for such fatal encounters.
And so the consequences that you're talking about are incredibly dire. But I also just want to step back for a second and look at the justifications that they're even using. They're saying that these are narco-terrorists, et cetera. And that's the Republican line. But then Trump comes out and goes, it's for the oil. I mean, when we did our illegal invasion of Iraq and killed hundreds of thousands of people there, at least the Bush administration had the humility to pretend and go to the United Nations and say, oh, we're going to do this through the regular channels. I mean, this brazen, bully, illegal administration doesn't even go through that pretense. And I think that should scare everybody, because their foreign policy is might makes right, and that's all that matters.
So I'm not scared. I don't think any American is scared about the consequences.
I care about the world, not just Americans.
No, I know, but you're also, in this instance, caring about a narco-terrorist group.
Oh, no! Somebody explain to this idiot how it works.
Somebody please tell him that they need to provide evidence of such things. And again, even if it was narco traffickers, which it's not, you arrest them. That's what civilized countries do. You don't do extrajudicial murder. You don't blow up innocent people. You don't vaporize them instantly because you think maybe they have some weed on the boat. Are you mental? What a little regime fucking sycophant and hack.
No evidence provided.
Them. There's been no evidence showing that they're not actually drug boats that are being sent out.
Oh my God, that's not how it works. You can't prove a negative, you man-child. Get this guy the fuck off my TV. Who is this? Who invited this loser?
How this works.
Especially as new reporting from the New York Times has claimed that this strategy has actually failed to slow the flow of cocaine into the United States. According to the New York Times and the Associated Press, this latest attack was the fourth strike in a single week, and the total death toll from the campaign has now reached 205. And the military are saying that these vessels are operated by narco-trafficking groups, right? But in this latest case, they never follow up with specific evidence showing who was on board, what exactly was being carried out, and why lethal force was necessary instead of, interdiction. Something that numerous lawmakers on both sides of the political aisle have called into question. And with the New York Times' latest reporting, it makes this even more damning in a way, because after months of these strikes, experts have said that the actual drug market has barely moved in the U.S.
The Armed Services Committee have indicated their displeasure of the type of information that's being provided to the Armed Services Committee. And if you look in the National Defense Authorization Act, what's about ready to be passed, there are provisions that are heightening the requirements on the Pentagon for the level of information that's going to be required by law as a result of the failure to provide information. And in this instance, of course, what's also so concerning here is, as you know and as you guys have reported, this activity that's happening in the Caribbean where they're hitting these boats, these individuals, if they were captured and tried and convicted, they would be guilty, if they were found guilty, of criminal activity for which they're not subject to capital punishment. They would be put in jail. They wouldn't be subject to capital punishment.
That's such a great point, is like, even if you were to arrest them and bring them to court, and even if they're guilty, even if they're found guilty, the punishment is not fucking death. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? This is what I mean. The Trump regime has taken a bulldozer, not only to like norms and civility and class and shit like that, they've also done it to the rule of law. Like, he actually governs like King Joffrey, bro. That's where we're at now. And I feel like everybody's just sort of, I don't know, doing an out of sight, out of mind thing, sweeping it under the rug. Like, I will deal with that later. But, like, on a daily basis, he becomes more unhinged and more violent and more extreme. And, like, this needs to be dealt with. This guy, he needs to end up in prison. If he doesn't end up in prison, we no longer have a country. I'm not sure the world has ever seen a crime spree this absurd and this obvious. And we're all just supposed to act like this is normal or this is okay or this, like, oh, yeah, we can have an election and the next person gets in there and then they'll just continue on. Like, I'm sorry. No Democrat better pull the Obama, we look forward, we don't look backwards. No Democrat better pull that. Because if you do, you are just green lighting the Republican Party to do whatever the fuck they want whenever they get power from now until the end of time. And make no mistake about it, they will get to the point where they feel bold enough to, like, eliminate Congress and eliminate the Senate. They're already functionally acting like those don't count. Like, he's legislating without Congress, which has the power of the purse. That's what all the Doge shit was. Right? But they'll go further. If you don't fucking stop them and you don't stop them ASAP, then we're in trouble, bro. This whole country is a failed experiment. We only made it 250 years. That's kind of embarrassing.
So the concern of whether or not the intelligence is accurate, whether we actually know what's happening, who these people are, is very, very concerning when you have the highest bar of the capital punishment is being executed here.
In this sense, it looks to me like they're trying to pin the blame on somebody else and not them. There's a very distinct statement that was said on Sunday. Secretary Hegseth said he had no knowledge of this and it did not happen. It was fake news. It didn't happen. And then the next day from the podium with the White House, they're saying it did happen. So either he was lying to us on Sunday or he's incompetent and didn't know it had happened. Do we think there's any chance that on Sunday the Secretary of the Defense did not know there had been a second strike?
Border cocaine seizures have not collapsed in a way that would suggest that supply has been seriously disrupted. And the scale of this campaign is not small either, right? The New York Times described this as roughly a $4.7 billion operation, one of the largest U.S. military deployments in Latin America in decades. Dozens of these boats have been hit, as we've reported on here, with more than 200 killed without any sort of due process, right? Which is why critics across the political spectrum have called these strikes extrajudicial killings.
Start with you, Senator Paul. What do you need to hear in a briefing? What questions do you have?
It's not so much about a briefing, but we haven't had a briefing. To be clear, we've got no
no information. I've been invited to no briefing. But a briefing is not enough to overcome the Constitution. The Constitution says that when you go to war, Congress has to vote on it. And during a war, then, there's a lower rules for engagement. People do sometimes get killed without due process. But the drug war or the crime war has typically been something we do through law enforcement. And so far, they have alleged that these people are drug dealers. No one said their name. No one said what evidence. No one said whether they're armed. And we've had no evidence presented. So at this point, I would call them extrajudicial killings. And this is akin to what China does, to Iran does with drug dealers. They summarily execute people without presenting evidence to the public. So it's wrong.
And the thing is, of course, the MAGA contingent love to frame any such questions as anti-patriotic or defending criminals. But as this administration have proven time and time again, what they often tell the public and expect everyone to believe verbatim, with little to no evidence provided to back it up, is often contrary to what independent reporting has stated happened. For instance, the attack on a US base in Iran, which Hegseth was grilled over.
Everything shook, and it's something like what you see in the movies. You know, everything, your ears are ringing. You know, there's dust and smoke everywhere.
This soldier was part of a crew of about 60 troops stationed at the military post in Kuwait hit by the strike. He says his unit's leadership ordered them there despite intelligence showing it was a potential drone target.
We moved closer to Iran, to a deeply unsafe area that was a known target.
So what was the reason that you were told for why you needed to be there?
I don't think there was a good reason ever articulated.
The attack killed 6 American soldiers and injured dozens more. Were these deaths preventable?
In my opinion, absolutely yes.
The next day, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth called the Iranian drone a squirter that got through the Army's air defenses.
It happened to hit a tactical operations center that was fortified, but these are powerful weapons.
What fortifications existed there?
I mean, I would put it in the none category from a drone defense capability.
None. There were no fortifications.
None.
But what we've been told by this administration is that they're criminals, but they're not bringing them before a judge or not presenting any sort of evidence in court, not allowing lawyers, witnesses, or any process. I mean, legal experts and human rights advocates have argued that the suspected drug smuggling is ordinarily a law enforcement matter, not a battlefield justification for summary execution. Now, the Trump administration's defense is that they are not ordinary smugglers. They call them narco-terrorists. But that should be met with the question, then where's the public evidence about the individuals killed, the cargo, the cartel affiliation, or the immediacy of the threat? Again, those questions become even more prominent when it appears that the strategy is ineffective on its own terms. But as we've just become somewhat immune to at this point, is that this is just normal operating procedure.
Here's the thing, though, and, you know, people need to understand this. Even if the strategy was effective, right, it's still illegal, it's still unconstitutional. This is why the whole concept of human rights exists. Like, you know, even if they killed all the right people, it's like, okay, at what cost are you reducing the number of drugs coming into the country? You're reducing the number of drugs coming in the country at the cost of the entire Constitution, everybody's civil liberties, everybody's human rights. Now you've given the government the green light. You've laid the precedent that the government can assassinate whoever the fuck they want. And then they get to turn around and say, well, it's okay because they're terrorists or they're bad guys or they're narco-terrorists or whatever the fuck. So, like, they could use that on any of us. How do people not understand that? It just drives me crazy. Like, the question of is it effective or not just totally misses the point that rights are supposed to be off the table and protected no matter what. And that's what this regime is doing, is they're taking away everybody's rights in the same way that the ICE Gestapo thugs don't give people due process and don't actually get warrants before they search shit and they arrest people. Like, this is a rogue criminal regime. They are the criminals. Ironically, as they say they're going after criminals.
Covered extensively in its early stages as military leaders overseeing these maritime attacks resigned all of a sudden. And
yeah, that's a point that a lot of people didn't really digest in the moment. But the admiral who oversaw that region resigned at the beginning of this because, presumably because he's like, there is no legal justification for what we're doing here. If you were to be in front of a court and to try to defend yourself on this front, you have nothing. Nobody has anything. They can't actually, they won't actually be able to defend themselves because it's so obviously unacceptable.
The coverage now is nowhere near at the level that this type of story deserves, really.
Well, you know, in combination with the whole Russian 28-point plan, in combination with the lethal strikes on drug boats carrying cocaine in the Caribbean, what the world is seeing is that the Trump administration is purely performative, right? It doesn't matter what really happens, so long as in the moment when you're very, very mad at Mark Kelly, you threaten to court-martial him. Now, you know, Mark Kelly will never be court-martialed because, as you point out, what he said was perfectly consistent with the Uniform Code of Military Justice and whatever every officer knows is true. And by the way, if you ever did have a court-martial, and Mark Kelly's defense attorney said, now, is there any context at all in which one might be worried that Donald Trump might issue an illegal order? Well, let's look back let's run the tape. Donald Trump suggested that maybe the United States military could train in America's cities. You know, Donald Trump has undertaken attacks on cocaine boats in the Caribbean on the flimsiest of legal rationales. So, I mean, it's a little bit like the Comey case. It's a little bit like the Letitia James case. It's purely performative, and at the end of the day, it's going nowhere. But in the meantime, my colleagues are getting death threats and are very much at risk because of the rhetoric of this performative president.
It's just devastating, man. It's just devastating. And, you know, shout out Midas Touch. They covered this. You had a couple articles here and there saying that, you know, the same amount of cocaine is coming into the country as it was before, but this is not getting the coverage that it needs and it deserves. And there's something about that that's just soul-sucking to me, that really the president just extrajudicially murdering random people on boats is not, like, one of the most important things to everybody? It's crazy, bro. It's crazy, but we got to get these people out of there and we got to fucking lock them up for all these crimes.
Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to. So as you all know, probably the single most unhinged, bloodthirsty warmonger in the country is a guy by the name of Mark Levin. He somehow managed to get a prime-time Fox News show, even though he has one of the most annoying voices I've ever heard in my life. And he literally just, like, screams at his audience for hours straight. Very bizarre, very weird, totally uncharismatic. But this guy has been on the warpath to just demand that we continue the war against Iran. He is openly arguing for a forever war. You know, he has close ties to the Israeli government, and the Israeli government basically wants Iran to be a failed state. They want them to be like Libya. They want there to be open slave markets. They want there to be warlords fighting in the street. They want there to be a collapse of civil order. That's what they want, so that they can dominate the region. Here is Mark Levin. He goes on his show here, and he says, I don't care about the price of gas. And he throws a little tantrum in order to ask for more war. Here we go.
All right, well, the president posted today, and they announced today that they couldn't tell if they're in a preliminary agreement or he's about to go into a preliminary agreement.
Sorry for your loss, Mark. Sorry for your loss. But by the way, let me point out, this was like, what, 3 flip-flops ago? It's like, oh yeah, they had an agreement, but then that agreement broke down, but then there was a new agreement, but then that one broke down also. Why? Because you can't trust the U.S. and you can't trust Israel, and Iran's looking like, how am I supposed to make a deal with you? You people are insane. You're liars, you're insane, you're not good to your word, like... And there was a point, Iran was like, we're just not going to talk to you anymore. We're just not talking to you anymore because you're liars. You say you want peace, and then Israel is marching on Beirut to carpet bomb them and steal all of Beirut, right? Let's keep going.
There is literally nothing that convinces me, and I don't think you, that this terrorist Islamist regime, that this barbarian regime has any intention of complying with the terms of this agreement for any significant period of time.
That's such a rich thing to say because it's the U.S. and Israel that never abide by the terms of our agreements. Look at the so-called ceasefire, the fake ceasefire in Gaza. Israel kept bombing nonstop after that. Same thing happened in Lebanon. Look at the JCPOA, the Obama nuclear agreement. Trump got in there and ripped that bitch up and pulled out of it. Okay? We're the ones who don't abide by our deals. That's a fact. They're actually good to their word. They followed the JCPOA perfectly. We're the ones who didn't.
Certainly not after Trump leaves office. And therein lies the problem, enforceability. The claim is that this will contain the Iranian regime. There's no proof for that. In fact, the proof is otherwise, in my humble opinion. You know, here's the thing, America. Every generation before has a tremendous sacrifice, some incredible sacrifice, done what needs to be done to ensure that the following generation will be safe and free. That's right. We've gone to wars over this. People have sacrificed everything over this. That's why when we talk about the price of gasoline, I get very annoyed. I understand the price of gasoline is expensive and it hurts a lot of people. But you want to see real sacrifice, you look at history, our history, and our recent history. I fear that we've become weak as a society.
Basically like, shut up about the price of gas already. I want more war. Also, I love the subtle comparison to like wars of the past, as if us illegally and offensively attacking Iran is similar to like fighting Hitler in World War II. My ass cheeks. If anything, Netanyahu and Trump are closer to Hitler. Get the fuck out of here. So Trump goes on Live Social and he tells his followers, watch Mark Levin tonight at 8 o'clock, a big show. So Trump is actively promoting Mark Levin's show. And Mark Levin's show, what does he come out and say? Well, he says the following. Here we go.
Welcome back, America. We're here with Michael Oren, former Israeli ambassador to the United States. Michael Oren, I get the sense Israel is very concerned, very nervous how this works out because everything's at stake. This is an enemy that wants to blow Israel off the face of the map. That's why they're pursuing nuclear weapons. That's why they're pursuing thousands of ballistic missiles. Tell me, what is the mindset in Israel with the Israeli people and so forth?
Very concerned, Mark. I'll be very frank with you. I'm very concerned that if the regime has thrown a lifeline through sanction relief, through the unfreezing of frozen assets, you're talking about tens and tens of billions of dollars, then it will continue to fund Hezbollah, it will continue to fund Hamas, it will continue to build intercontinental ballistic missiles that have threatened us. And what I want to say to the president, if I had that elevator talk with him, as they talk about in Washington, where you get caught in an elevator with somebody for 2 minutes, I'd say to him, Mr. President, you have an opportunity to go down in history not as one of the great presidents of American history, but one of the great leaders of all time. The ultimate game changer. And I know it's difficult and under your immense pressures economically, politically, but stay the course. Stay the course and run out the clock on these guys.
So Trump tells everybody to watch this episode of Mark Levin's show. And in this episode, you have people begging Trump to continue the war, begging Trump to keep being Netanyahu's little bitch and doing his dirty work for him, begging Trump, don't you dare give them sanctions relief and give them back the money that we stole from them. Don't you dare do that. This is what Trump told everybody to watch. This is what Trump told everybody to watch. And we're getting to the point where it looks like Mark Levin is able to manipulate and control Donald Trump. And I'll have more on that in a second, by the way, but let's keep going.
Because they have a clock. And you know what else? Let's say my team loses the midterm elections in the House of Representatives. Mm-hmm. They're still not going to be able to stop the commander-in-chief, the president of the United States, under our Constitution, from doing what he needs to do and what he wants.
Oh, excuse you? He's saying go rogue. Don't listen to Congress. You do the war, go do the war. Oh, he doesn't need Congress. Well, I mean, at some point, you need to fund the war, right? Congress could say, go fuck yourself. You also got no approval for the whole war's illegal. All of it's illegal. Literally all of it's illegal. And he's like, well, he doesn't have to listen to them.
Wants to do. War Powers Act, No War Powers Act, and all the rest of it. Unless they intervene in a budgetary way and literally cut us off. But that's on them.
As they should.
If they do it.
We can't have a situation where the war ends where people will think, well, America didn't see it through to the end and we're going to have to make up in some way with Iran, an angry and wounded neighbor. That would be very bad for Israel, but I think for the entire Middle East and the world. Again, to the president, please stay the course. There are tens and tens of millions of people who are looking to you right now to do precisely that.
All right.
Please, sir, keep doing the war. Please don't stop. Please don't make a deal. How could you make a deal? All right, we have more from Mark Levin. Here we go.
President Trump has done more to confront this grave threat to humanity than any other president.
Do you see his strategy? What you do is you suck off Trump, you butter him up, you call him historic, you call him amazing, you call him incredible, and then you hit him with like the, and that's why you must continue the war and stay the course and be the brave leader the world needs, sir. So like you weasel your way into his inner circle, and this is the sort of shit that you dump in his head. And by the way, since he has the attention span of a fucking gnat, and since he's basically like a toddler, and since his brain is turning to oatmeal in real time, it's not that hard to manipulate the motherfucker. Also, let's be clear, he's also a warmonger in his own right. Like, it doesn't require that much to get this motherfucker to start dropping some bombs, but it certainly doesn't help that this fucking pro-Israel freak is up his ass.
He and Benjamin Netanyahu have put their political careers on the line, have put their governments on the line.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they're such heroes. These mass-murdering, sociopathic, war criminal pedophiles are such heroes. Spare me.
They've done more than anybody in the last half century to try and confront this Islamist revolution, to ensure that they don't get nuclear weapons, at least not on their watch and hopefully beyond. President Trump, as I said, has put his presidency on the line to prevent this terrorist regime from destroying millions of us. Benjamin Netanyahu has put his prime ministership on the line because the people running who want to be prime minister are now attacking him for a variety of reasons. And these opponents, these myriad of ferocious, duplicitous, exploitive, political and ideological opponents,
who would put our nation and the free world at risk of annihilation, even if it meant political advantage and electoral victories for them, are truly detestable. It's one thing to have a loyal opposition. It's another thing to have a disloyal opposition. President Trump is an extremely courageous leader.
That's Mark Levin taking Trump to Slurp City, son. Slurping deep, y'all. Slurping deep.
Presidents refuse to do. The question now is whether each of us, we the people, you, Mr. and Mrs. America, have as much courage as he does.
If you don't want to keep bombing little girl schools in Iran, you don't have the courage. You don't have the courage.
And even more, whether we have the will to support the elimination of the Iranian regime so that our children and grandchildren and future generations will be free of their revolution.
Free? We need to be free of Iran. Iran never did dick to me, son. You are more deleterious to this nation than Iran is. You're a bigger problem to this nation than Iran is. Because your bitch ass directly is controlling the president and convincing him to fight more endless wars, okay? Wasting our blood, our treasure, killing innocent people with my money in my name. Get the fuck out of here with this shit. All right, he's still not done. Here he says, we have to see this through to the bitter end.
I will stake my reputation here and now on the fact that they will continue to pursue nuclear weapons, ICBMs, they can reach our country, fund terrorist organizations, and never surrender the revolution to the very people and governments they seek to destroy.
He's literally implying that, like, Iran is a threat to nuke us. No, you dumb bitch. They're not a threat to nuke us. The only reason Iran would even want nukes in the first place is to provide a deterrent to Western aggression, right? And now we've proven they needed that. They should have had that. North Korea has nuclear weapons, and we can't fuck with them. That's the only reason there wasn't a war there where we tried to topple that government too.
I know this is hard to hear. I know this is unpleasant. I know I may be in a minority today. I know I will be called a warmonger. I will be called an Israel firster. I will be called a unpatriotic Jew.
Nobody's saying that. Well, I guess the Nick Fuentes types would say that. But the first two, you just objectively are those things. Let's be honest. Like, you just are a warmonger and you just are an Israel firster. Like, that's not even controversial to say those things.
I've been called a lot.
Oh, you poor thing. Are you going to be okay? You going to be okay, Mr. Multimillionaire who's directly controlling the president and advocating for war on TV every single night? Are you going to be okay?
Faith is under attack. I get it. But that's the way it goes. The fact is that the Iranian regime, it wants to destroy our country, our civilization, our way of life, indeed our lives. And it wouldn't give it a second thought.
It's all so dishonest. Oh my God. He knows Iran is not a direct threat. This is such
The president has said if they had gotten a nuclear weapon, they would have used it against us. He's 100% right. You know, every generation has a responsibility to the next generation and generations thereafter. This is our generation's responsibility to our children and our grandchildren and our country and to civilization.
I can't stand this man. Think about what he's saying here. He's not saying our responsibility to the next generation is to prevent climate change. He's not saying our responsibility to the next generation is to get money out of politics and end the corruption. He's not saying our responsibility to the next generation is to give them a chance at a better life than we had. Give, better jobs, more money, better benefits. He's not saying our responsibility to the next generation is at the very least to have universal health care or a roof over everybody's head. He's saying our responsibility to the next generation is to do more illegal wars, kill more children, and create more debt for the stupid reason of fighting Netanyahu's atrocious war crimes or illegal wars, which are packed full of war crimes.
Come so far, much further than any president has been willing to go, to confront this gravest of threats. Despite all the opposition he has faced, all the political attacks, the midterm elections, the price of a gallon of gasoline, this president, and only this president, has brought us, the free world, the civilized world, much of which is dragging and kicking or sitting on the sidelines. He's brought us to the point where we truly have the capacity to put this to an end. But do we, the people of the United States, do we, the people of the free world, do we have the will to see this through?
Oh my God. Do you have the courage to continue to support the bombing of hospitals and schools? Do you have the courage to support the bombing of more steel plants? Do you have the courage to commit more war crimes with your money in your name? You better find the courage.
According to the polls, we don't. What will our generation do? As past generations ensured that we would live in a free, secure, and open society. And they sacrificed far more than most of us, and a whole lot more than a temporary increase in the price of a gallon of gasoline.
Oh, again with the who cares about the gallon of gasoline. All right, ready for this? So here is Trump. He was doing an event at the White House. This was 5 months ago, okay? He had Mark Levin at this event. Look at the weird moment that unfolds here. You could tell how Levin has worked his way into Trump's inner circle. Watch.
We have a man. I have to take a little time because every Saturday night used to be Sunday. Then he did so well that they put him on Saturday too. Saturday night. Do you know who I'm talking about? Because there's only one has Saturday and Sunday, and Saturday is considered Death Valley, but it's not death because of ratings. Nobody gets good ratings. Although actually my daughter-in-law is doing well, and you always did well. The great one, Mark Levin.
The great one. By the way, that's his nickname that Sean Hannity gave him. So bizarre. He unironically has people call him the Great One. Here's the President of the United States calling Mark Levin, the bloodthirsty warmonger, the Great One.
And much more importantly, his much more brilliant wife. Where are you? There you are. Would you come on up here, both of you? Get up here. Get up here. Look, every Saturday, every Sunday, I'm forced to watch television to listen to this guy talk about how freaking great I am. Because he does like Trump. There's no question about it. Come on up here, Mark. Get up here. Come on up. What a beautiful couple. Did you get lucky? If you weren't a genius, you wouldn't have a wife like this. Mark, say a couple of words. Come here, darling. And these people do like Israel. Hold on.
And these people do like Israel.
And he loves Israel too.
What am I watching, bro? What the fuck am I watching, bro?
Listen, 6 years ago, I was up here, and I said, this is our first Jewish president.
At this point, are you guys just trying to feed the anti-Semitic conspiracy theories? Is that what you're doing? Are you trying to make people become anti-Semitic? It's hard to conclude anything else when you watch this shit, right?
Now he's the first Jewish president to serve two not consecutive presidencies. We thank you for everything.
That's right. Bad things happened on the second one. Namely, the election was rigged. And we found out, and you see that happening. But,
and you are the greatest president.
Thank you very much.
And God bless you. I miss you.
I miss you?
Take care.
What the fuck?
That guy. Take care of that guy. No, he's so great.
Look at how chummy they are. Look at how close they are. And then I remembered this one. You ready? Look at this. President Trump defended and praised Mark Levin on Truth Social, saying that anyone who speaks ill of him is, quote, not MAGA. Mark Levin, a truly great American patriot, is somewhat under siege by other people with far less intellect, capability, and love for country. Mark is tough, strong, and brilliant, hence the nickname, the Great One, conceived by our MAGA friend, the wonderful Sean Hannity. After years of dealing with Mark in legal, media, and other capacities, Mark would often do Sean's show speaking as a lawyer, and Sean realized then, as did others, that he was special. Mark Levin was not looking to do television, radio, or anything else, but he was drafted by very smart people who understood that there are few like him. He is a true conservative and intellect, far smarter than those who criticize him, but above all, he is a man of great wisdom and common sense who truly loves our country. When you hear others unfairly attack Mark, remember that they are jealous and angry human beings whose sway is much less than the public understands and will, now that they know where I stand, rapidly diminish. Other than for his wonderful wife and family, Mark Levin only cares and wants one thing: greatness and success for America. Those that speak ill of Mark will quickly fall by the wayside, as do the people whose ideas, policies, and footings are not sound. They are not MAGA. I am. And MAGA includes not allowing Iran, a sick, demented, and violent terrorist regime, to have a nuclear weapon to blow up the United States of America, the Middle East, and ultimately the rest of the world. MAGA is about stopping them cold, and that is exactly what we are doing. God bless our great military, blah, blah, blah. So let me sum that up for you. It went a little something like this. Know what that is, son? We're visiting Slurp City again, except this time it's Donald Trump slurping Mark Levin's anal cavity for the world to see. We are in Slurp City. We are downtown in Slurp City, son. It is not a good place to be, if you ask me. So what the fuck is going on here? Look, I think it's fair to say at this point, with Donald Trump in his mentally diminished state and physically diminished state, as he's tightening the circle more and more. He's even ostracized like J.D. Vance, his own fucking vice president. He's clearly sundowning. He's clearly not all there. He's clearly crashing out. He's awake all hours of the night, falling asleep in meetings during the day, and he's still out there saying, everybody's got to watch Mark Levin's show, where Mark Levin goes out there and says, we need more war, Mr. President, more bombs, kill more children, yeah. And Trump's like, isn't that guy great? We love that guy so much. I agree with everything he says. So what's happening? I think what's happening is very, very clear. I think Mark Levin is manipulating Trump. He literally got Trump to come out and defend him when Megyn Kelly called Mark Levin micro-penis Mark and went after him for his endless warmongering. Trump comes out immediately like a fucking stepdad to defend Mark. Like, what is that? It's because they regularly are in contact. They talk regularly. And Trump is now listening to these absolute psychopaths. So understand what's happening here, bro. Understand what's happening. Anytime, because this happens all the time where, it looks like, maybe we'll get some peace. Maybe there'll be a deal. Maybe, there'll be less fighting. And never, ever, ever bet on that. This person is unhinged, and there are nefarious ass forces that are pressing on him 24/7. And he is way closer to them than he is to anybody who's going to tell him the truth.
Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
Sometimes you see a story and you just got to double take, and you're like, no fucking way, bro. No way. Look at this from the Daily Beast. Trump goon unmasked as CIA gold hoarder's mentor. Okay? So what happened here is somebody who's ex-CIA, who has links to a pro-Trump billionaire, he stole $40 million worth of U.S. gold bars owned by the U.S. government. Former CIA official David Rush, who was busted with a stash of $40 million in gold bars, reportedly has close ties to Trump's billionaire deputy defense secretary. A now former high-level CIA official accused of stealing a whopping $40 million in gold bars from the U.S. government has been linked to President Donald Trump's billionaire deputy defense secretary. FBI agents last week seized 303 gold bars from the Ashburn, Virginia home of former CIA official David Rush, according to court documents. Rush, who claimed the gold was for work-related expenses, was arrested and charged with theft of public money. Agents also discovered $2 million in U.S. cash and 35 luxury watches, investigators reported. Rush, 49, is also accused of forging his educational and military credentials. He worked for the CIA for 17 years and held a senior role in the agency's Directorate of State and Technology, which utilizes cutting-edge technology in intelligence investigations. Rush had a years-long professional relationship with the current Deputy Defense Secretary, Steve Feinberg, the billionaire Trump backer, who founded the private equity behemoth Cerberus Capital Management, sources told NBC News. Feinberg has long been interested in the intelligence community. He was chairman of Trump's influential intelligence advisory board beginning in 2018 during the president's first term and helped support Rush's career over the years, according to NBC sources. The men first met when Feinberg headed the board, which provides advice to the White House and spy agencies on intelligence collection. Rush is currently in custody and will remain so until at least next week, when a court hearing is scheduled on charges that he filed fraudulent timesheets by falsely claiming he was a member of the Navy Reserve, according to court documents. An ongoing investigation is expected to produce more serious charges. The Daily Beast has reached out to the White House, the U.S. Defense Department, and Feinberg for comment. A joint statement by the CIA and FBI 3 days ago said CIA Director John Ratcliffe had referred Rush's potential violations to the FBI for investigation, which resulted in his arrest. We are committed to following the facts, ensuring accountability, and pursuing justice in accordance with the law, the statement noted. According to court documents, Rush asked for and received tens of millions of dollars in gold bars and foreign currency for work-related expenses. When the CIA conducted a review of where the assets were held, the agency was unable to locate them, according to court papers, and a search was launched of Rush's home. Bro, he had $40 million in gold bars that belonged to the U.S. government stashed at his home? That is the most egregious thing I've heard since Bob Menendez with his gold bars and cash stuffed directly in his jacket that had his motherfucking name on it. He had luxury cars sitting in the driveway that were bought for him, by, what was it, Egypt? I think it was Egypt, or Turkey? I think it was Egypt. I think Eric Adams took a bunch of money from Turkey. But anyway, what the fuck are we looking at here? Now, allow me to go out on a limb real quick and say this. There's a decent chance that Trump pardons this guy, isn't there? I think there is, y'all. I think there's a decent chance that Trump is actually going to pardon this motherfucker. I wish I was kidding. I'm not kidding at all. And when it happens, it's going to be one of those things. It's in the news for 7 minutes, then it's out. Nobody's going to talk about it. Nobody's going to care. Obviously, he's running a direct pay-to-play scheme at Mar-a-Lago. Give me $1 million, I'll pardon whoever you want. That's why he pardoned dozens and dozens of white-collar fraudsters and criminals. So all this billionaire who's already in the Trump circle has to do is give Trump $1 million, and that guy will be out. Here's the other question. Ready? Was the billionaire in on this? Was the Epstein-class billionaire who's already in the MAGA inner circle, was he in on this? Did he get his ex-CIA buddy to take this on purpose, and was he going to get a cut? Right? At this point, this is a reasonable question. And I say that because we're now at the point, guys, and stop and think about this. We are now at the point where they are literally looting the treasury right in front of our faces. Remember when they were doing the whole, like, we need to audit Fort Knox to find the gold, audit Fort Knox to find the gold. It's the classic, like, Republicans doing the trans people are groomers and pedophiles, and we need to go after them. And then come to find out, everybody who was saying that themselves was a pedophile, right? So they're doing we got to audit Fort Knox for the gold, because they're fucking stealing that shit. They're the ones. It's classic psychological projection. So what are the chances this guy gets pardoned? I'm putting it at least 50-50. What are the chances the billionaire's involved? That I'm putting at 60-40. I think it's most likely that the billionaire was involved. The Epstein class is literally looting the treasury right in front of our eyes. This is a crime spree, the likes of which we have absolutely positively never seen before. And people need to understand, the America that you grew up with genuinely no longer exists. Genuinely. So Trump has been outed 17 ways to Sunday doing all sorts of ridiculous insider trading schemes, caught red-handed. He'll buy a bunch of stock in one company and then dole out a government contract a month later, right? He'll go do a tour of a factory to promote a company that he just bought stock for. This is shit that's happened over and over again. He sued his own IRS and is robbing taxpayers of over $1 billion to pay to January 6 insurrectionists and fucking corrupt family members. He had the crypto scam shitcoin, and so did Melania. He shook down his own supporters. He has a crypto exchange where 2/3 of the tokens are bought by foreigners, and Trump literally pardoned a guy who laundered money for Al-Qaeda because that guy bought $100 million in World Liberty tokens, okay? And that's to say nothing of the kids. That's to say nothing of their various scams. That's to say nothing of the violations of the emoluments clause, like the fucking Trump hotel in Dubai and the golf course in Qatar and the $400 million plane from Qatar and all that shit. It is off the charts, the amount of corruption. So I don't think Trump would bat an eyelash, bro, at his billionaire buddy coming up to him saying, hey, can you free my boy who just stole $40 million in gold bars from the U.S. government? I think Trump might even let that guy skate on having to pay him the $1 million DZACs. Shit, he might even say, you don't even have to give me any money, bro. Like, I'll pardon this guy for you. So, I'm telling you, man, this is going to go down as, like, the looting era, right? Like, this is the Epstein class looting era in American history, where the New Deal fell apart, the neoliberal order fell apart. Where we're at now is gangsterism. Where we're at now is mobocracy. And when we learn the entire scope of all of the scams and schemes and financial crimes and all the corruption going on, I think it will genuinely blow people's minds. I think they'll be in awe of how the whole system is just a house of cards. And we're just systemically being looted by billionaire parasites on a regular basis, led by Trump, led by the Trump crime family. So just incredibly, incredibly disturbing stuff. Like I said, this is one, I guarantee you there's a million other stories that are exactly like this that we don't even know the details of yet. I guarantee you everybody in Trump's inner circle. Think about Steve Witkoff. Think about Jared Kushner. Think about, fucking the Michael Flynn types. Think about all these people. They all have some shit that they got cooking up, which is just a scheme to rob people blind. I think there's no denying that.
Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
I feel like it's a daily occurrence now that I look at the news and I have to double take because I'm like, wait, hold on. Did I read that right? That can't be right. is the world that backwards that this is a true story that's actually happening? So take a look at this. Breaking, Governor Ivey just voided the May 19th primary results and called a special election for Alabama State Senate Districts 25 and 26. So, yes, you heard that correctly. There was already primary votes underway, and the governor of Alabama voided the results and canceled the election in order to redistrict and make a map more favorable to Republicans. You could not make this shit up if you tried. First of all, this bitch looks ancient. Can we be honest here? Governor Ivey is like, 117 years old. She looks like she's descended from a family of fucking plantation slave owners, okay? And now we got Republicans canceling elections. And this is, I believe, the second time this happened, where there was another state, I'm blanking on it, put in the comment section if you remember, there was another state where the same thing happened. You had like some primary votes that were already underway, and they were just like, yeah, we're going to just throw those out and go ahead and cancel it. Why? Because the Supreme Court is now allowing us to, redistrict, and so we're going to cancel this election, redistrict, and then redo the election with a map that's more favorable, that's going to help Republicans more. You literally can't make this stuff up. If I had written a fictional novel and said that the Republicans did this, you would say, Kyle, your anti-Republican bias is so extreme that you're making them sound cartoonishly evil. You're making them do something they wouldn't even do in real life because you just have such a low opinion of them. And the fact of the matter is, if anything, my opinion is not low enough of them, because this is the sort of shit that they do. They say, Ivey calls special primary for Alabama State Senate Districts 25 and 26. This is Alabama Daily News. Governor Kay Ivey voided primary results and called a special election for 2 Alabama State Senate Districts Friday morning after a Thursday court decision allowed the state to revert a previously struck down map. The special election for Montgomery area Senate District 25 and 26 will take place on August 11th, the same date as the special primary for 4 of Alabama's congressional districts. The affected districts span Montgomery, Elmore, and Crenshaw counties. Ivey applauded the 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals Thursday decision in a new release announcing the primary. Alabama continues winning fair and square in our redistricting battle, and I'm proud to celebrate yet another victory for Alabamians and our elections, Ivey said. By the way, let me just pause to point out, this is the shit that drives me crazy, and this is the shit that drives every single Democrat, liberal, and leftist crazy. Every single red state gerrymanders, redistricts, there's court cases over it, they end up winning. They end up upholding their redistricting, right? And then in Virginia, not only did we counter gerrymander and counter redistrict, but there was a direct vote by the people as to whether or not we should do that, right? The people won. The Democrats won. The correct position won. And we were going to in fact, I voted in the election. We're going to redistrict or gerrymander, counter gerrymander in Virginia. Then it got to a state court in Virginia and they slapped it down. So if you're following along, Republicans are allowed to gerrymander, they're allowed to redistrict, they're allowed to cheat, but blue states are not allowed to counter cheat and counter gerrymander to make it more even, to make it more fair. Well, again, I reiterate, how can a country continue with such blatant double standards? And I mean that sincerely. How is this country supposed to continue when at every turn Democrats are slapped down and handcuffed, and at every turn Republicans are incentivized to be the worst version of themselves possible and, rig the system 1,000 ways to Sunday? So they get the Electoral College, which biases it in favor of them now. They get to win these court decisions for redistricting, which biases it in favor of them now. And now we're at the point where they're literally canceling elections after votes have been cast to get their way. Again, you couldn't make this shit up if you tried. These people are straight up evil. They don't give a shit about democracy. They don't give a shit about freedom. They don't give a shit about the right to vote. All they care about is raw power. That's it. That's all they care about. So they say the special election proclamation is the latest step in Alabama's redistricting battle, which has been rife with legal appeals. The Alabama legislature empowered Ivey to call special primaries in case courts allowed the state to change its maps during a special session earlier this month. Ivey said in the release that she remains hopeful the Supreme Court will rule in favor of Alabama in the state's pending appeal about its congressional map. I can tell you this, Alabama is not tired of winning, Ivey said in the release. Senate President Pro Tem Garland Gudger from Cullman also celebrated the ruling in a release. He said the decision means that elections can be held using fairly drawn maps that are firmly rooted in common sense and prioritize reason over race. So understand what they're saying here, because they're lying there. They're lying there because what they mean is, hey, if you allow black people to have some sort of representation, then you're race obsessed. So in other words, by countering racism, they say you're race obsessed. The only way to not be race obsessed is to just be racist and take away black people's ability to have any representation. That's what's actually happening here. And so can we just call it what it is? The Confederacy was treated way too soft, way too kindly. It's a sick joke how much we let them get away with. We should have been much more aggressive. We should have cracked down much in a much harsher way. We should have stripped them of more power and more control, because clearly they are not reasonable with said power. They're not reasonable with it. They will immediately strip black voting rights. The second the Supreme Court was like, yeah, fuck the Voting Rights Act, all of them instantly were like, word up, fuck all black people's voting rights, and we're going to crack down, and we're going to make sure we gerrymander the shit out of our states, and we make sure we take away as much black power as humanly possible. So these states were treated with kid gloves, and that never should have fucking happened. That never should have fucking happened. It's absolutely disgusting. It's absolutely grotesque what we're looking at here. And understand what we're looking at, right? What we're looking at is now it's not only at the federal level do you have Trump trying to rig the midterms, rig 2028, come up with all these tricks, right, in order to get his way. But now that's bled into the rest of the Republican Party, where at the state level everywhere too, they're working on it. They know they can't win fair and square. They know their ideas suck ass. They know that all they're good for is endless war and tax cuts for the Epstein class. They know that working people despise them, and that's why they're panicking. And so all they can do is try to rig it, try to cheat, right? And so now add this to the long list of Republican election rigging moves, like, for example, Trump seizing the ballots in Georgia and Arizona, him trying to steal the 2020 election. Let's just start with that one. The fake elector slate, trying to steal the election in 2020, of course, doing January 6th and all that stuff, now paying the criminals who assaulted people, who assaulted cops. But they already did the dry run. They seized the ballots in Georgia, seized the ballots in Arizona. Trump did that executive order trying to ban vote by mail. They're stealing voter roll data state by state, and they're trying to do ballot purging and ballot spoiling. They're potentially going to send in the National Guard or ICE to seize the ballots on Election Day if there's another red mirage type scenario and Republicans are leading and then Democrats come back and take the lead. We already know that Trump is trying to make Maduro lie for him and say that he stole the election for Biden. We already know that. Trump said on the first day of the Iran war that Iran interfered in the election. Trump said China interfered in the election. The Save America Act, they tried to get that shit through. Thankfully, that failed miserably, as it should. But they're trying, bro. They're trying 1,000 ways to Sunday. And these other Republicans at the state level, don't get it twisted. They're all just as fucking bad as Trump. And they all instantly could not wait to strip away black people's rights the second they were given an opening.
Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
So the other day, we talked about the rumor that J.D. Vance is actually low-key, secretly despised by Trump. That Trump, first of all, I mean, anybody who threatens his power in any way, shape, or form, he hates. So, it's not like he's going to, pass the crown easily to anybody. He's not going to do that, right? Everybody knows that. But there was allegedly a trap that was set for J.D. Vance. Trump had a hunch that J.D. Vance was leaking to the media shit that Trump didn't want leaking to the media. And so they said something to him that only he would know, and then that thing showed up in the media, right? It was about that, the Camp David getaway. And then he goes and tells the media reports on it. So now Trump knows this guy's fucking leaking, right? This guy's out there and he's saying shit I don't want him to fucking say. Well, that was apparently it. And behind the scenes, allegedly, Trump was like, I want to try to get rid of this guy. I don't even want him on the ticket anymore. They're looking for ways to dump him, but of course there are no ways to dump him without him really resigning, right? And so Trump is allegedly furious and pissed off at J.D. Vance, and he's done with him. And of course the riff started because J.D. Vance theoretically is more anti-war than Trump and actually thought the war against Iran was a bad idea. And Trump knows what people had said in the past and what they believe, like Tulsi Gabbard. Obviously, there was a big falling out with Tulsi Gabbard because as Trump's warmongering every other day, he's like, is she actually going to stay loyal? And she was a loyal little, fucking idiot going along with the warmonger. There's no doubt about that. But he knows in the back of his mind, like, I don't know if this person's really down. I think they'll fucking throw me under the bus the second they get the opportunity, right? So there's a big breakdown between J.D. Vance and Donald Trump. And this gets worse. Ready? New York Times comes out and says, Trump has repeatedly needled J.D. Vance on both substantive and personal matters. He has brought up Vance's initial opposition to military action against Iran, questioned the success of Vance-led diplomatic mission to Pakistan, criticized the number of vacations he takes, and joked about his tendency to interrupt conversations. Oh boy, he hates him. Trump has also repeatedly referenced a moment when Vance fumbled Ohio State's national championship trophy during a White House event. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I need you to understand about Trump. He is 100% all about optics. He's all about theater. He's all about straight out of central casting. Better looking than Tom Cruise, that big strong guy. Straight out of central casting like a general. This is a guy who's optics obsessed. He's theater obsessed. He's show obsessed. And so if you don't look the part, if you don't act the part, he fucking hates you. He despises you, okay? Exact same thing's going on with J.D. Vance here, where he looks at him, this fucking pudgy, eyeliner-wearing, failed drag queen cuck boy. He looks at him and he's like, really? You're so gross. You're so weak. Dropping the fucking... In fact, here, I have the video. I'll play the video for you. Look at this. Look at this. Literally the exact sort of thing that Trump would look at and be like disgusted by. Like, you couldn't even hold that trophy. How dare you do that? You make us look bad. Why would you do such a thing? Literally giving him the dead end missions, right? Yeah, go here, go do this thing, figure that out for me. And of course, he can't figure this shit out. Trump said to him, he made him like the fraud czar now. Oh, J.D. Vance is the fraud czar. Then he said in a press conference, ready for this? He goes, if J.D. does his job right, if he does it right, he could probably wipe out the national debt. Wipe out? Bro, that shit is $40 trillion. I'm not sure you can find more than $2 billion worth of fraud anywhere in our government. Well, that's not true. That's actually totally untrue, because 63% of the Pentagon's money is unaccounted for. So let me then say you probably could find about $400 billion worth of fraud, or between $400 and $600 billion worth of fraud, but that's way short of $40 trillion. And also, they would never cut that money off because they're for the military-industrial complex. They're for the Epstein class. They're for the looting of the Treasury done by Raytheon and Boeing and Halliburton and all these people. But this is Trump rat-fucking J.D. Vance. That's what that is. Here, go work on this thing that you're never going to solve, and I'll give you an impossible goal of like, yeah, find a way to wipe out the national debt with fucking fraud money. Are you kidding me? What a sick joke. Meanwhile, Trump is pardoning fraudsters left and right. He pardoned dozens of fraudsters. What are we in, 20, 30, 40? Somewhere thereabouts. He literally pardoned one guy who committed fraud, got arrested, Trump pardoned him, gets arrested again for fraud, gets locked up, Trump pardons him again. I mean, this is unheard of. So now you have J.D. Vance has to go out there and give these speeches and do these interviews where he's like, I am against the fraud, and this regime is cracking down on the fraud very aggressively, and we won't let you down. Meanwhile, every comment in the replies, myself included, is like, Trump is pardoning every fraudster under the sun, you lying cunt. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Everybody's like, this is the fraud regime. Nobody's ever done more fraud than Trump himself, his entire family, his entire regime, and he keeps pardoning every white-collar fraudster in the country who makes the pilgrimage to Mar-a-Lago and pays him $1 million for a pay-to-play pardon. Like, what are we talking about here? So he's humiliating him on purpose. He's rat-fucking him on purpose because he doesn't want him to be his heir apparent. Okay. Brian Krasenstein says, looks like they have realized that Vance's reply to me was not a good look after all. So J.D. Vance had said, this is in 2025 here, September of 2025. Killing cartel members who poison our fellow citizens is the highest and best use of our military. This is when I believe the first illegal attack on a random boat in the Caribbean happened. Brian Krasenstein says, killing the citizens of another nation who are civilians without any due process is called a war crime. J.D. Vance replies and says, I don't give a shit what you call it. So you don't care that killing the innocent civilians of another nation is illegal and bad and wrong and immoral and unethical? And he's like, I don't give a shit what you call it. So he looked like the dead-eyed psychopath that he is when he said this. So now we learn this. This is incredible. From the New York Times. Ready? In meetings, Mr. Vance frequently scrolls his phone and he uses social media to fight with critics. The president frequently posts on Truth Social, but he does not spend time replying to people online as Mr. Vance does. Susie Wiles, Mr. Trump's chief of staff, recently advised Mr. Vance to take a break from social media, as have other officials in the West Wing, according to people familiar with those interactions, because the fighting was beneath his office. Mr. Vance said he took a break for Lent. So Susie Wiles, Trump's chief of staff, his right-hand woman, basically sunned the shit out of J.D. Vance and said, hey, bitch, you might want to put your phone down. You're basically like an unhinged 4chan teenager, and you look like an idiot. And I guess J.D. Vance thought it was cool for him to, like, respond to critics on Twitter because, oh, Trump uses Twitter all the time, so, like, I'm doing no different than Trump. I'm actually, like, doing the same thing he does, and maybe he'll like that I respond to these people and I shut them down and stuff like that. Meanwhile, everybody in the regime's looking at it like, you fucking toddler. You look like a jackass. You sound like an idiot. You're fighting with the fucking Krasensteins. You're fighting with Zed Jelani. Shit, I think one time he went after Crystal, right? Like, you think you look like a vice president? You think you look like a future president fighting on Twitter over policy? Like, get the fuck out of here. What an unserious loser, weirdo, weasel, snake bitch you are. God damn, bro. How did, like, I'm an asshole on YouTube. I'm somehow more fucking presidential than you are. The only time I reply to people is to, like, joke around and fucking shut people down on some quick shit. Most of the time, I don't even read my goddamn replies. I have to see the shit on my feed. J.D. Vance is all up in his own replies going, that's not true. How dare you say the... Like, what are you doing? You think you're going to be president like this? Oh my God. Oh my word. So apparently everybody fucking hates him. He's disgusted by everybody. And now they're shivving him. They're knifing him in the side because, you know, they don't like him. And my guess is there's tension over a number of things too. There's tension over a number of policy things. Like J.D. Vance knows, there's reports that he's like, he might not even run in 2028 anymore. And one of the main reasons probably is he knows the Republicans cooked. He knows the Republicans cooked. He said a lot of shit that sounded vaguely anti-war. And so he knows you can't do that and then you become the #1 warmonger president, making fucking George W. Bush look like Noam Chomsky. You think that's going to go well? Pulling that about face like that and acting like it's totally cool? No, people are fucking sick of this shit. They're sick of this shit. So really, really incredible stuff here. Trump is done, man. Trump is done with him. Everybody in the regime is done with him. They all hate him as they should. And what I say to him is, hey, bitch, this is what you get. You thought these absolute scum of the earth people would, like, what, ride with you? They'd actually defend you? They'd actually, like, willingly have you be the heir apparent? Like, what are you smoking, son? Grow up.
Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
I don't know how many of y'all have seen this, but this did go a little viral. And this is some of the wildest shit I've ever seen in my life. So there's a guy running for governor in Colorado as a Republican. Okay, his name is Victor Marx. I had never heard about this guy until this interview. He's being interviewed by this guy, Kyle Clark. Shout out to Kyle Clark. He is, he's a wonderful representation of all the Kyles out there. There's good Kyles and there's bad Kyles. He's one of the good Kyles, seemingly. Okay. So this guy does an interview with him, and this is without a doubt one of the single most bizarre interviews I've ever seen in my life. This man openly admits to being a murderer while on the campaign trail, running for office, thinking that's going to help him or make him look good. I don't even know, bro. I don't even know. But let's go ahead and dive in. I got some clips for you. Here we go.
Your claim that your abusive stepfather forced you to kill a man when you were 7 years old, is that the only person you've ever killed?
Bro. Oh, my word.
Well, I would say as a child, yes.
Oh, no. So he said his stepdad made him kill somebody when he was 7 years old. First of all, what? Like, what? I got so many questions. But then he's asked, is that the only person you've ever killed? And he's like, long, disturbing pause. As a child, yes. Can you go ahead and just wrap up the campaign, dog? Like, let's call it a day on this bitch. Like, I don't know why we would continue after this. Who is this for? Yes, he's going to win the serial killer demographic. The secret serial killer demographic is all in for Victor Marx. Here we go.
I mean, without question. But I've been in other situations where, possibly people or persons died as a result of me defending myself in other countries.
Somebody go check this dude's basement ASAP. There is a solid 48% chance that he's got some toddlers tied up in that bitch. Let's get that search warrant. By the way, all you have to do to get that warrant is just show this clip to a judge. They will greenlight whatever the fuck you want to search. You could search his car. You could search his basement. You could search whatever the fuck you want. They will allow that once you hear this guy talk. Worst political candidate, maybe of all time. I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe, perhaps.
Think that you've killed people as an adult?
Does it matter?
Oh, no. Oh, no. Bro, what on earth has happened to our politics? I don't get it. This country, we lost our minds. Did some hostile foreign nation poison our water supply years ago and it's just now catching up, where all of us now have plummeting IQs? Like, we're just the dumbest people of all time. And now we have idiots running for office, openly admitting to murder. And then when pressed on if they've murdered more, they go, does it matter? Yeah, I don't know. Kind of think, yeah. Kind of think that matters to people, right? What are we talking about? Oh, this gets worse.
Say so.
Why?
Like, killing somebody is a pretty...
He said, why? Why does it matter that if I murdered somebody, if I murdered more people? Excuse you?
weighty thing.
If someone's trying to kill you or you're in combat?
It's still a weighty thing to take somebody else's life. I mean, it could be self-defense, it could be justified, but it's still a weighty thing. So I'm just asking you, how many people have you killed?
Well, if I did, I wouldn't be telling a reporter sitting here in my training center.
How about voters? Would you tell voters?
There's no need. I don't think that's important. It's actually kind of, it's an odd question to me.
Well, he's got my vote. Who's watching this going, that's the one? I was looking for lower grocery prices, lower gas prices, less war. I was looking for somebody to address the cost of living crisis. I was looking for somebody to fix the roads. They're going, you know what I want? Creepy, awkward murderer who can't give a direct answer. Let's go with that.
You actually talk about the idea of killing people with some frequency, and why it's a necessary thing to do, killing people.
I love how this guy's like, the interviewer's like, all right, let me try to act really normal while describing the most insane shit of all time. He's pulling it off really well, but man, this guy gives me the creeps, bro.
You said on NRA TV in 2017, now a lot of them just got to be killed. I've had them shoot at me and I had to shoot back. There's a time and place to eliminate the enemy, and you have to. You said on Jeff Lerner's podcast in 2025, some people have to get killed. Some people have to die. But it's an odd question to ask you how many people you've killed.
Yes.
You claim that you once called in a U.S. military airstrike that killed 70 ISIS fighters. I didn't realize that civilians could essentially facilitate military airstrikes.
You can see on this guy's face, all the long track record of pathologically lying has just caught up with him and hit him on the head like a ton of bricks.
You walk me through how that worked.
No.
Oh no, one more time. That's the best thing I've ever seen.
Some people have to die. But it's an odd question to ask you how many people you've killed.
Yes.
You claim that you once called in a U.S. military airstrike that killed 70 ISIS fighters. I didn't realize that civilians could essentially facilitate military airstrikes. Could you walk me through how that worked?
No.
Imagine being invited on TV for an interview for your campaign, and you just instantly have to suck a bag of dicks. Here, sir, the giant bag of dicks you ordered. Oh, thank you. I'll get right on that. Oh, no. All right. Still not done. Here we go. We got some more. Let's watch this one.
I want to talk about some of the specifics of what you will share about your rescues. You said that you've performed more than 130 missions to rescue women and children from terror and abuse. Your organization says that you've saved women and children from 30 nations.
By the way, let me just say, it's the people who say shit like this and brag about shit like this that usually are like involved in child sex trafficking, right? Whenever there's some like thou dost protest too much type shit, it is absolutely because they're hiding the most heinous shit imaginable. He's like, I saved a bunch of women and children. I saved a bunch of women and children. Oh, did you really? Now, like I said, check that motherfucker's basement ASAP.
30 nations. That's a lot of countries. Could you list off a bunch of those for me?
Start with the first.
Yes, sir.
What did I say?
You said that this in 2024. You said that you've performed more than 130, quote, missions to rescue women and children from terror and abuse. Is what you said factually true, that you have performed more than 130 missions to rescue women and children from terror and abuse?
Where do you cite that?
You said that on X on August 12th of 2024.
That's not something I believe I would ever say.
Your full quote was, I wrote this book, Dangerous Gentlemen,
Yes.
after 130 plus missions to rescue women and children from terror and abuse. So that's not true, what you wrote.
I wouldn't, that doesn't sound accurate, that I would specify how many missions.
Okay, I'm happy to provide you with a copy afterwards.
Thanks.
Yep. Your organization claims that you've saved women and children in 30 nations, and I was wondering if you could list off a bunch of those countries.
Saved or helped?
Quote, saved women and children in 30 nations. That was from the Protecting Children's Innocence Task Force fact sheet.
Well, I would say check with Buddy. Again, our commander. I don't hold on to stats.
But I mean, you're the CEO of the organization. If you really have saved women and children in 30 nations, you can name off a bunch, right?
I don't memorize every place that we've gone.
Okay.
That's why I got a passport.
Oh, my word. Oh, no. All right. And then finally, you're not going to be surprised to learn that our boy here apparently also regularly does exorcisms.
You perform exorcisms, commanding demons to come out of people. Can you explain to me how that works?
I don't command the demons to come out of someone. I think of them as assignments or attachments to people. And we identify the demon, like Jesus did.
I don't think of them as demons. So what we do is we identify the demon. Oh, dude, what have you done? What have you gotten yourself into?
You perform exorcisms, commanding demons to come out of people. Can you explain to me how that works?
I don't command the demons to come out of someone. I think of them as assignments or attachments to people. And we identify the demon, like Jesus did. We ask what their name is, and then we give them commands. And they very frequently and typically will answer.
Demon, can you hear me? What's your name? Okay, your name is Steve. Steve the demon, I command you, get out of this person.
Person's mind, they'll tell us what they hear, and then we destroy them, banish them to perfect judgment from Christ.
You also perform these exorcisms by phone. Are those just as effective?
They are.
Where does the demon go?
Nah, son, it's over. President Xi, fire when ready. President Xi, invade at your will, sir. What are we doing? I'm sorry, this country is so cooked. It is so done. We got bridges falling apart. We got roads falling apart. We got a pedophile, rapist, con man president looting the treasury. We got candidates like this talking about exorcising demons and murdering people. What happened to this country, bro? What? But you know what? At the rate we're going, homie's going to win by like 7 points. You just wait.
Go at the end of the exorcism.
We send them to the footstool of Jesus Christ, who we believe is sitting at the right hand of the Father, who then absolutely gives them perfect judgment of what happens.
You don't charge for the exorcisms, right?
No.
Okay. But they were part of the how-to guide that was available on your website for $99, the spiritual warfare guide with battle tools and resources. It's no longer available on the site.
Well, I think that's a film, and it's always, whatever we have posted with that was, you can pay $1.99, but we've never charged. I've never looked at a person and asked for remuneration for casting demons to Christ or praying for someone.
Do you understand why so many of your critics think you're a con man?
No.
The way it's supposed to work is that a con man is supposed to be charismatic, right? A con man is supposed to be somebody who's a smooth talker, who makes you feel good, who makes you like, you know, just makes you calm, makes you comfortable, makes you at ease. Like that's the whole thing, is that con men are charismatic, right? And this is a classic example of like, this dude has the personality of a dying armadillo. Why the fuck would anybody, like, who's gonna fall for his shit? You know what I'm saying? Like, who's gonna fall for his shit? Well, I guess we'll find out. There's gonna be some percentage that votes for him, And boy, just fucking mentally prepare yourself for that. I'd like to think that we're still somewhat sane enough where he's cooked, but I guess we'll all find out together. I swear to God, man, I genuinely and sincerely blame Trump for this guy. I do. Because there was a time when a guy like this, back in the day, would know that he's a ridiculous person, would know that, he should be as far away from cameras as humanly possible. And that day is now gone. Because, we're being led by a fucking reality show carnival barker buffoon, fucking baboon regime. And so now every Tom, Dick, and Harry 2-bit con man, idiot, conspiracy theorist, religious fundamentalist freak is like, hey, I can run, maybe I'll win. And they're out there and they're doing their thing. So, ironically, God help us all. God help us all. We don't know how many people he's murdered, but we also don't know how many demons he's exorcised. So, I don't know. Y'all can work that out in your own heads, but this country is hanging on by a thread, if that. All right, man. That's the show. Love y'all very much. You guys know the deal. Everybody, hook a brother up with a subscription. Click that bell icon. You can support the show on Patreon. Remember, y'all, there's real independent media, so you guys support the show from the ground up. I'm very appreciative of that. You can also sign up for Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack, link below, and go sub to Corin's World and come hang out with us live on Monday nights. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon. Everybody have a great rest of your day. Peace.
Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.